All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Med School Mentor Leaders in Medicine webinar series. I'm Jun Kim, the founder of Med School Mentor, and it's great to have you all of us here this evening. Today, we're honored to be joined by Dr. Zadeh, who is the professor and chair of neurosurgery at the Mayo Clinic. From our Med School Mentor team, we have Carlota, Madison, and Cami joining us today. Just a brief moment to highlight our Leaders in Medicine series. We've had the privilege of hearing from these leaders in medicine, starting with Dr. Bukvar, Dr. Lim, more recently, Dr. Agi and Dr. Ayer, each sharing how mentorship and leadership have shaped their journeys. We've been really, really grateful for all of these leaders giving their time, and today we're honored and thankful to continue that tradition with Dr. Zadeh. Dr. Zadeh is an internationally recognized neurosurgeon, scientist, and academic leader. And as a pioneer in the field of neuro-oncology, she has authored influential research, directed groundbreaking clinical programs, and shaped the training of future neurosurgeons. Her career reflects a combination of surgical excellence, scientific innovation, and visionary leadership. But through this seminar here at Med School Mentor today, more than the neurosurgeon and scientist, Dr. Zadeh, we hope to get to know the leader, Dr. Zadeh, and once mentee, Dr. Zadeh, and the mentor, Dr. Zadeh. And I believe for our first question for the Q&A, Madison has the first question.
Hi, Dr. Zadeh. Pleasure to meet you.
Nice.
I'm currently a fourth-year undergraduate studying neuroscience and dance at the University of Michigan, and I'm happy to be part of the academic committee here at Med School Mentor. But my first question to ask you is related to your path to medicine, and I'm curious, during your medical school career, were there any pivotal moments or maybe a mentor that helped to solidify your desire to pursue neurosurgery?
Yeah, thank you. Super great question. I appreciate the question because, in fact, I do have the perfect answer for you. When I started medical school, I went to my neuroanatomy lab session, and the person who taught me neuroanatomy was really great in helping me understand what we were going through session by session. And I asked them if I could spend the summer with them in the anatomy lab to do research, and they said, you probably want to spend time on the wards and go to neurology. And so I did. I did an early elective in neurology, and as I was on the wards, in fact, the neurosurgeons asked me who I was and what I was doing on the wards, and it was an early morning, and they said, well, you want to come to neurosurgery, you want to see neurosurgery. I explained to them why and how I was there. And so the next day I went to the OR with Dr. Michael West, who was at University of Manitoba in Winnipeg, Manitoba in Canada. And I remember that day, I remember seeing the brain and him operating and having really focused attention to what he was doing under the microscope. He was doing an AVM that took for hours, and he went and spoke to the family, and the experience was just remarkable to me. And so I ended up really wanting to do neurosurgery based on that experience. And the three neurosurgeons I met during that year, Michael West, Derek Fewer, and Norman Hill, were amazing in that they supported me, and they actually kept saying to me that we need more women in the field, and they were very encouraging of me. Now, who was that neuroanatomy preceptor that I had? It was Dr. Dwight Parkinson's. Dr. Parkinson defined the Parkinson triangle in the cavernous sinus. He was the first neurosurgeon in Canada. He had, in fact, trained at Mayo Clinic and returned to Winnipeg to start a neurosurgery program. So I feel I've come full circle, and I'm ready to retire now that I'm at the place that he trained. But I think it was the way he was explaining the neuroanatomy to me that resonated so well with me, and it sat with me with a lot of kind of curiosity as to how our brain functions and how we preserve it. At the time, I didn't know he was Dwight Parkinson. He was just our neuroanatomy teacher. So that would be one example, perfect example where mentorship, that sort of support and allyship could really influence and change the course of your path. Yeah.
Thank you. That's very meaningful.
Thank you, Dr. Gelareh. And we are really, really happy to have you here. And I wanted to
Thank you.
ask, you are both an active neurosurgeon and a world-class researcher. And we were wondering, how do you manage to balance the surgical practice with research? And in what ways does your clinical work influence the scientific question you pursue in your laboratory? And vice versa, how the laboratory discoveries change your approach to the patients?
Yes, super good question. So it's a process. It's not like you learn how to balance it and then you're done. It changes throughout the course of your training, your career. So first it starts with training. I think you have to have that dedicated time out to do focused research that gives you the tools that you need to be able to build a research career for yourself. So I did that, and I did my PhD. I learned a lot about how to pursue hypothesis-driven questions, how to be very collaborative and find ways to interact with others so that your projects can move forward. And then I completed my neurosurgery residency training, the clinical training. And at every stage of my career, the mix and the focus, the attention to where I put on clinical or research varies. So in early stages, when I started out as a surgeon-scientist, as a neurosurgeon at University of Toronto, which is really one of the strongest places for training surgeon-scientists. It's the brand that has the international reputation and recognition. The focus was on identifying, again, mentors that would help protect my time to be able to do research. And I would do that in a very deliberate manner. So there were particular times in the week, days, that I would set aside for research. But I would also be focusing on building my career from a clinical perspective, so I had the comfort of being able to take care of patients. And then in my mid-career, once that period of early phase, establishing my independent career through support of my mentors was completed, mid-career, I really juggle between where I need to focus on clinical and doing the work that I need, and where I need to focus on research when we're due to have grants, manuscripts, projects, PhD students, defenses, training, etc. But throughout all of this, I think you need a strong cohort of colleagues and collaborators that help you build that sort of a portfolio for your career. In the stages of your early training, I think the balance really is around finding the right teachers that would then create that kind of inspirational approach to wanting to ask questions based on what you see day to day in your clinical practice. And then being able to pursue that in the laboratory so that the results can immediately impact and have a direct effect on what you do for the patients. And that's the design of majority of our projects in the lab. What is the clinical question we have? For example, we know that people who have cancer develop brain metastases, but not every patient with cancer develops brain metastases. So what are those predictors that could tell us one person is at risk versus the other? And that's a clinical question that's very important for my day-to-day practice, the care of my patients. I know that it's a big piece of information that would help guide decision-making for the patients. And so we pursue that in the laboratory.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Zadeh. I'm Camila, a medical student from Italy, and it's an honor to have you here with us today.
Mhm.
So, following up with the last question, for students who aspire to combine a clinical career with research, just like you, the first steps can feel a bit overwhelming. What advice would you offer on how to begin building a solid research foundation early on, especially for those who may be unsure where to start or feel a bit intimidated by the skill of academic medicine?
Yeah, good question. I would say to go, one step at a time, just like anything else. You want to learn how to walk before you run. So you want to go at a step at a time. You want to be able to explore as many labs, as many scientists, teachers, mentors as possible in areas that you have interest. Everybody has a very different style in teaching, in mentoring, supporting students, and you want to find the right fit. And even you may find that, for example, one lab, let's say our lab, is areas of work that you do that's really fascinating to you. But the timing of it, the setup of it, the composition of people in the lab may be such that it wouldn't be the best opportunity for you. So I think when I look back, when usually people ask me a question, I want to look back and say, well, what would I have done differently? And what I think I would have done is perhaps, and I did do this, but maybe I would have done more of it, is explore opportunities of labs that you would go to, research projects that you can be part of, and not be afraid to become involved in projects that you may not have a lot of knowledge and background information or strength in. And you will find the right person that would help carry you and get you in the process to learn about the project, about the techniques, about the approaches, etc. But I think early on, it's your opportunity actually before you become differentiated, before you become kind of set in the directions you want to take, to be able to explore different labs and to see whether other opportunities, how they compare with each other, or whether some areas that may, actually, as you said, intimidate you. Maybe once you're in it, you're immersed in it, you find a good teacher in that area, you will get to actually learn about it. But you may also find that it's really not for you, and that in itself is also quite positive. It may be an area you have interest in, but you explore it and you realize maybe it's not something that's going to really actually ultimately be the direction you want to take. And that in itself is a good learning lesson or a step to take.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
And Dr. Zadeh, we have a question from the audience.
Sure.
Looking back, when you're a early career investigator, you might have limited protected time for research. What strategies work for you in keeping these things going in the background?
Yeah, I mean, I think that piece is really important. The protected research time for me came from having a very outstanding senior colleague, a couple of them actually, but people who really put my success first, and they would be available to cover my clinical practice if I needed time for research, if I had to write a big grant, if I had to write a manuscript. And the level of support, because early on in your career, for majority, not everybody, but for majority, there are a lot of failures. There's a lot of grants you write that you don't get. There's a lot of manuscripts you write that don't get published. And you have to have that kind of resiliency, the persistence, the ability to continue, and having that mentor and senior person giving you the encouragement that this is doable and not to give up hope, not to become dismayed or disappointed is important. And I think it's not necessarily, what we do as neurosurgeons is very time demanding, and we need to commit to our patients. That's the number one and key priority. We can't escape that. We don't want to deprioritize that. So I think it's not necessarily always a matter of time balance and protected time. I think it's having that level of protection intellectually with colleagues and collaborators, mentors in your early stages that are important. I was in a position very early on in my career where I didn't have that. And so I transitioned and moved back to Toronto where my mentors were and they helped support me. And I think finding those levels of people that provide that degree of support is really essential. Time is always tricky. I've always used time outside of my work hours to make it happen. And it was not with any disappointment that I say that. I have no regrets. I've worked very hard. I'm very proud of having worked very hard. I recognize that that's needed. But it typically, I also wanted to be very good at what I did surgically, and the ORs take long hours during work hours. So I didn't want to compromise that. But to me, it's not really the number of hours that go into it. It's more, as I said, that intellectual protection that you get from your colleagues and senior mentors.
I think this next question builds off of this a little bit, but I am curious if you have any, or if you follow any daily routines, or if you maybe have a personal practice or a habit that helps you stay motivated and grounded while balancing all of these different roles.
I don't really have a personal habit or routine, really. In fact, I think I'm probably the least habit-driven person. I think what keeps me grounded is really making sure that I do live in the moment and take advantage of everything that's before me in that immediate period. Having a family helps a considerable amount for me to stay grounded. I have 2 daughters, and spending time with them really helps ground me. And any free time I have, I spend with the 2 of them. But I don't have particular, routines that I do. I do like to stay active. I do like being very busy. I find for me that's actually more balanced than not being busy. I find that I feel more balanced, have a better well-being if I'm very busy, have a lot of projects that I'm excited about and I work on them. I do like to be, to some extent, not terribly, but have some regular exercise, especially because ORs that we do as I get older, I just finished a long case where I was standing in a particular position. That really helps me, and I think it helps clear my mind. So those would be some of the things that I do.
Thank you, Dr. Zadeh. And we have a question from the audience. Labiba, you can go ahead.
Hey, is it okay to turn on my camera?
Of course.
Hi, Dr. Zadeh. Thank you so much. This is Labiba. I've been trying to meet you for a while, if you remember. I just actually wanted to thank June Kim for hosting this session because it gives us an opportunity to really have this opportunity to ask somebody so renowned some very critical questions. And as a woman in neurosurgery or aspiring to be a neurosurgeon who is coming with a lot of adversities or pushbacks, what is your advice for them?
I think I heard your question correctly. You said, what is my advice for people who have been faced with adversity? I'm sorry, I don't know if it was my connection. Is that the question that you asked?
Yes, particularly as women who are trying to be in the field and are constantly being met with pushbacks or, just not very much encouraging comments. What would be your advice or guidance for them?
Yeah, good question. I don't know that I have the magic bullet answer. I'll be very honest. I think depends on each individual person and the circumstances and surrounding environment that you're in as to how it impacts you and the level in which you feel that sort of constraints and perhaps some of the biases that you experience. I think for each of us, it's very different. What I do know is that you have to be able to keep an open mind to hear the person's perspective. So what you may feel to be a pushback or a bias, I may not feel to be the case. So I think that's first and foremost important. And I think often when there's not a critical mass of voices that express that, then the concerns that you would raise as an individual, as one would raise as an individual, becomes diminished. And it's easy to diminish that voice of concern because majority would say, well, I don't feel that way. I don't experience that. I don't identify with it. So I think the first step is to make sure that the environment you're in is able to hear you. But sometimes it's not that easy. People can't hear the level of bias that you're experiencing or pushback, as you mentioned it. I think the way to keep yourself balanced and focused, in my opinion, again, just going based on my experience, is to have some level of internal confidence. It's not always easy. And then try to find people who you know can act as good sounding boards to make sure that the perspectives that you have are viewed by that sounding board so that they can provide you maybe with an alternative way of looking at the situation, but more importantly, being able to synthesize it so that you can move above and beyond it. And the reason I say this is during my early career years, when I started as a neurosurgeon on staff, my best mentor was Dick Hill, who was supposed to be my science mentor. But in fact, what he really helped me do is just what I explained. Present to me, first of all, hear me, understand my position, and then present to me perspectives where I could try and get above and beyond it and move ahead and move forward and have that level of confidence and knowing that that sort of recognition of what you're experiencing gives you some level of confidence so you don't have self-doubt about what you're going through. So that's to me quite important. And that's a piece, again, I always go back to my own experience as to where I think different, help came to me, what had an impact on me, what was positive for me. I hope that was helpful to you. I don't know. Labiba, are you still there? I can't see, sorry.
Oh, yeah, thank you for the answer. Habiba says thank you.
Mhm.
And Abdullah, I believe, has the next question.
Hi, Dr. Zadeh. Thank you for taking the time for sharing these experiences with us. So I have one question because we talked about, or you talked about how to get the best out of the clinic and research, but you didn't really get to tell us how to get to lead a life with a happy family without letting the work negatively affect the families. Because as we all know that neurosurgery is time consuming. So how to not let the work affect the family, or how to not let the family negatively affect the work results. Like how to get the best balance between the three,
Yeah, I would say, same as it's a good question. It's same answer as I gave maybe for most of them, most of the questions. It really comes down to the individual. What makes me happy is to be active, to be busy, to be focused on projects. Not everybody likes that, and I think that's okay. I don't think it's good or bad. I think each person's going to be different. So for me, even when I'm home, I like to be busy. I'd like to get our kids together and go do something. And sometimes to the point where everybody's like, why do we have to do something? Why don't we just sit down and enjoy ourselves? But I like to be going somewhere, doing something, etc. So I think that's important because not everybody's balance is going to be the same definition. I think what makes you ultimately happy is important. I do think there are pieces where you do need some time to yourself. And again, how much each person needs time to themselves varies. I don't need a lot, but I think some people need that extra time to themselves. And so carving that time out to make sure that you have the opportunity to reflect, to do something that balances you, puts you into a well-being state of mind, into a mindfulness state, into really being present at the moment so that you can enjoy everything that's happening at that time. And to be able to kind of shut out all of the other noise that comes with everything else that we do day to day, whether you're a student, your early career, mid-career, senior, no matter what, there's a lot of noise that happens around us. Being able to find that kind of a peace for yourself where your mindfulness and well-being combined allow you to really enjoy what you're doing at any given time. I think it then makes efficiencies for family time, so that when you're at home, when you're with children, with family, with loved ones, your mind's not distracted and it's focused completely on them for the duration. I know times where I can't do that. It's not always possible. I don't feel at ease, I don't feel balanced, and I feel that I've been too distracted to be able to actually enjoy the activities that we were going to do. Equally, if I'm not very balanced with managing my home situation and taking care and being happy of the time that I'm giving to my loved ones, I feel that maybe at work I'm distracted. So those are some of the things I would say are doable. There's no denying that neurosurgery and research are very demanding. They're demanding of our time. And I think as long as you feel rewarded in the amount of time that you invest and commit to, that kind of well-being and balance follows it.
Okay, thank you so much.
Did that make sense?
Yeah, it did. So thank you.
Dr. Zadeh, I think that's today with us. We have many people who may have never had a mentor, or they are just starting to think about finding one. So I was wondering, from your perspective as a global mentor, what are the green flags that tell you a mentee has real potential, and what are instead the red flags that make a mentoring relationship more difficult?
Yeah, I think a person who tries to really prioritize their mentee, makes time for them, gets to know and understand them. Each person's very different, and then fits the model of mentorship to the person, as opposed to come up with a fixed series of models of mentorship and ask the person that they must follow those steps or they should follow those steps, and then they will reach a successful place. I think it's important that there be some level of tailoring to the individual mentee. The next most important to me is it's like any other relationship between the mentor and mentee. There needs to be some sort of a bonding that happens so that they both feel committed to each other. Because as much as identifying a good mentor is important, being a good mentee, and this is how I learned as well, is equally important. Having the kind of trust and courage to act on what my mentor gave me advice on. It's not always easy because my mentors not always told me things that I wanted to hear. They tell me things that I don't want to hear. It's difficult. I don't want to do the things they ask me to do. And so having that trust in the mentor to be able to act on the advice that they give, believe in what they're telling you is really important. And I think in the course of your career and your training, you will find a number of different mentors, and you will find mentors for different areas of your life, whether it's research, clinical, other. I think if a person is really caring about you, it's just like any other relationship. You know that they care about you and they can give you mentorship. Now, they may care about you, but they may not have the right tools to provide you with the support you need. And so in that instance, they would be trying to find other people that can help mentor you into where you want to be, where you want to get to.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so following up with mentorship and Galata's questions, you have probably mentored countless of students, residents, and faculty across different stages of their career. So in your experience, what qualities or mindsets do you see the most in those who go on to excel?
In the mentee or in the mentor?
In the mentee.
In the mentee?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think one point I already mentioned is that the mentee needs to have that sort of openness, the desire, the readiness to take the direction and the advice and the recommendation, and then equally trust the mentor to follow up on what they've advised them. Even if it's something where it may be not so comfortable for the mentee, right? I think the other piece is paying attention to the details of any task that you've been given, whether it's an assignment, whether it's leading a project, whether it's taking care of a patient. I think if you pay attention to details, it actually has a huge level of success associated with it. And to me, if I have a mentor-mentee relationship, I want the mentee to have that level of attention and detail to whatever it is that we're working on. And to me, that's another key important point. I think that level of honesty with your mentor in the mentor-mentee relationship, it's just like any other human relationship. It's also share with your mentor the genuine experiences that you have so that they can also genuinely give you the direction, as opposed to think of what it is that you would want to tell a mentor so that you receive the feedback you're expecting to receive. Those would be some. It's a good question. I haven't, other than knowing it's important just as much as being a good mentor to be a good mentee, specific characteristics I would say are those that I outlined, in my opinion.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
And we have another question from the audience. Maud, you can go ahead.
Good evening, ma'am. My question was that I'm a high school grad and I'm in my drop year, and I'm preparing for SAT right now. In my country, we are not really aware about SAT and all, so I had to take a drop year, and I don't know which course to take in my undergrad, so I could have a better career as a neurosurgeon. So is neuroscience the course for me, or should I take biology?
What country are you in, Maud?
I am from India.
Oh, I see. It's hard for me. I know that people get into neurosurgery from all sorts of backgrounds. I did math in my undergrad. There's a wide range of undergraduate degrees that you would do. It doesn't have to be neurosciences. But I also have to admit, I don't know the details of your school and university and your circumstances to know exactly what to give you advice on. Are there neurosurgeons in the area that you live?
Really?
Pardon me?
No, ma'am.
I'm having a hard time hearing you. Sorry, repeat that.
No, ma'am.
What about like school counselors? Do you have school counselors?
Yes, I have school counselors, but I don't think they'll entertain me now as I've now graduated and I'm in a drop year. So
I think in general, regardless of where in the world you are, you first have to get to a place where you do medical school before you go into neurosurgery. And depending again on where your schooling is, etc., you need to find a way to get to medical school. And then from medical school, that's where you get your exposure to neurosurgery. And you're able to then talk to neurosurgeons in your area and your region and understand what are the background training that you need in order to get into neurosurgery. I think your first goal would be to see what do you need to get into medical school. And generally, I think that that's something that probably contacting medical schools in your region, you would have a better chance. I just don't want to give you an advice that would not necessarily be relevant to where you're training. I will say that you don't have to do neurosciences to become a neurosurgeon. There's a wide range of background training people have had before they got into neurosurgery, before they got into medicine.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, we have another question. And I do have to say, as a female who wants to enter neurosurgery, I think we're all very inspired by the way that you have broken so many barriers to obtain your accomplishments. And I think we're all curious now moving forward into the future, what barriers do you think still remain? And how can we all play a part in breaking down some of those barriers, continuing to advance females in neurosurgery?
I think being able to support and have that level of allyship is really important, not only for females, I think for people who have an underrepresentation in any area, in any field, in any discipline. To me, I think allyship, where people who are not necessarily similar to you, but have that opportunity to speak for you on your behalf, to raise and promote you, is a tremendous opportunity. And so for women, I think if everybody was able to be cognizant, really genuinely understand where some of the barriers come, where some of the biases might exist subconsciously, unintentionally, and have that allyship in senior colleagues, seniors, teachers, mentors, peers, I think that would be a tremendous move forward so that people understand where those who have lesser representation might feel some of the biases, may feel some of the discrimination, may feel some of the pressures, may not have the equal opportunities that others would have as a consequence of some of these factors. I think the other piece, when I look back, that's made a big difference, and I think this is what I was talking about with Labiba and her question, is that in my generation, if I raised a concern, I would be one or maybe two voices that would have had that same experience. And so it was very easy to dismiss my experience. It would be very easy to diminish what concerns you would bring forward. Whereas I think the shift really happened when we had access to democratization of knowledge, where we're on media forums such as this, which could not have happened 10 years ago, 20 years ago, where there's more communication, more sharing of experiences, and more recognition of understanding of each other, and having appreciation that we all come from extremely different backgrounds, and that it's important to be able to understand where different people come from. Such forums would have, for example, never been even imaginable 30 years ago or 20 years ago when I was training. And so having that understanding, the genuine recognition that yes, there are perhaps biases that we all feel. And so if the voices are shared together, I think it has more power. And I think that's where we have seen some of the shifts happen for recognition of the need to promote membership of underrepresented groups, the need to be able to put in policies and processes that when there are biases in the system, you can address them systematically to eliminate those biases so that they don't get diminished, so that they don't get swept away, so that voices, no matter if it's a few, are heard and are given their due opportunity to be assessed and to be able to enact on any kind of negative influences that they're experiencing. So I think in the future, that level of togetherness, open communication, understanding the differences we each have, and then the level of allyship, I think will hopefully help catalyze the changes that we need to see. I mean, in neurosurgery, although we have more women in neurosurgery, which is great, my hope would be that it grows to parity to a faster pace than it has in the last 10 to 20 years.
I hope so too. Thank you.
And we have a question from Shreya from the audience.
Hi, Dr. Zadeh. It's so nice to make your acquaintance here, and thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, my
I
pleasure.
know that your research is mostly focused on neuro-oncology, and I just had some questions about that. So, in terms of the research that you're currently doing at Mayo Rochester, what is some of the things that you're doing that you see as the most exciting or the most high impact for the next few years that are being pursued in your lab?
One of the main reasons for me to move to Mayo Clinic is being able to access the wealth of data that we have at Mayo Clinic. I came from University of Toronto, which is a remarkable university. It has a strong history. It has an amazing training program, and it created the opportunities for me that allowed me to do the work that I did. And I think it would remain an extremely strong place to train. The reason I moved to Mayo Clinic is I thought it was an opportunity to have access to resources and data sets that are quite unique. There's a lot of anonymized electronic data that could be mined, that can be used using mathematical computational modeling to create models of care that we probably would not have thought of to date, and really bringing to the forefront and implementing into clinical care AI models and AI digitized healthcare. So those are some of the areas of work that we're really moving in towards at the lab. Up to now, in the last 2 decades, I would say, we've focused a lot on genomics, epigenomics of disease, of brain tumors in particular. And I think now we have an opportunity to roll it up into using large data sets to come up with modelings and AI algorithms that can help digitize healthcare in a way in neurosurgery.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm
Yeah,
actually a final year med student, and I might consider, or I might do research at Mayo Rochester next year. So this is very exciting to hear. And I'm
okay,
excited to go.
wonderful. Let me say Shreya Day. Okay,
Thank you.
nice to meet you.
I have a question regarding a global perspective. You have an international profile and collaboration that extend beyond North America. A lot of like Dr. Fabio Moraes really talk about his amazing experience in your lab in Canada. So how do you think that the global exchange and collaboration will reshape the future of neurosurgery?
Again, in Toronto, we're in this ideal position where we have a lot of international fellows, international students. At Mayo Clinic, the same. We're really blessed in a way. We're so fortunate that we have so many people come from all over the world. And with that comes differences in perspectives, differences in experiences, culture. And once they're trained with us, they go back either to their home country or to another area of the world. And that connection continues. And I've been so fortunate to build on some of these connections that I've been able to make through people who came to my lab, people who came to our clinical program for fellowship. And I think it just enriches all of us. When I was a resident, some of the best type of education that I received on my clinical rotations was from the fellows, because they had different perspectives, different experiences. Things are done in a different way. You learn from them. Whether you want to adopt what they do or, in fact, learn to not do it that way is a good experience. And I think that's sort of a globalization similar to democratization of data. It's democratization of experiences. And you learn from each person who comes new, brings new experiences, new focuses. And from a practical perspective, all the fellows that I've stayed connected to have given me the chance to be able to go visit them, see what their unit, their institution, their hometown is like, and more importantly, be partners with them to offer courses together, to be able to build programs together, continue research together, etc. So I think it's really one of the biggest privileges for us to have that opportunity to interact with people globally.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. And now for our last question. Looking back at your career, were there any particular moments or decisions that you now see as a turning point in preparing you for leadership? And also from your perspective, how can trainees begin developing the skills and mindset necessary for leadership early in their careers?
Yeah, good question, and a difficult question. I never really thought of myself to grow in an area of leadership. I don't know that there was one particular moment, very much like I mentioned to you about Dwight Parkinson in my anatomy lab. There is a division of surgical oncology at Princess Margaret, and the leadership of that division became open. And I asked our surgeon-in-chief whether this was already earmarked for somebody, because typically people, grow into a position. There's a lot of people who qualify for the next leader to come in. And he said no, but I thought about it and I thought, I've never really had an aspiration to be a leader, and it's probably not my phenotype or strength. I was never taught or even given that sort of a mindset or mentorship. Quite the opposite, actually. Again, maybe in fact being a female and neurosurgeon, some of my senior, not very good mentors had discouraged me on a number of counts in ways that were not perhaps the kindest. In hindsight, I think they could have been more considerate of who I am as a person, but it wasn't in their capabilities. It's their limitation, not mine. Speaking to the earlier question. Anyways, the deadline for this position came and went, and I got a call from the office of our surgeon-in-chief to say, please put in your application. And I said, I've thought about it. I don't think I'm really strong as a leader. I don't have that strength. And they said, just put in your application. So he said that I would expect it by the end of today, type of thing. So, I mean, he was my boss. I put in my application, I went for the interviews, and I was still pretty sure that likely they're going to pick somebody more senior, someone who's wanted the position. And I got the position, and I was really surprised. And he being Shaf Khashoggi was another person who really helped me understand the strength that perhaps I have in bringing people together, making projects, programs successful for a division, for a department, for a group that is beyond just myself. And he was very supportive of me. And speaking to mentorship, we didn't always agree on every point. We actually had a lot of disagreements. There were things that were frustrating for me, sometimes maybe because I didn't have the courage to do what he was advising me to do. But it was a very good experience for me to learn through his support on how to actually be a leader. And not that I did everything the way he does, we're very different. But he helped me understand my own strengths and own interests on how to lead perhaps a group. I think early on in your career, your leadership is already demonstrated by the fact that you're here. You're understanding all of the factors, all of the questions have been really very good. They've been very sensible, educated, to the point, reflect a lot of wisdom. So I think you're already on the right track. And again, just finding a few people that can hold you up like a lattice to allow you to grow and do what you probably know deep down how to do best is what you would likely be able to get to be a good leader. I think the fact that you've created this forum, you're present, you're committed, demonstrates leadership. I have learned from being a good leader, and it's not easy. It's not that I do this well, but it is important to consider everybody's perspectives as much as possible. I think it's given me that additional extra layer of appreciation of how we're all really very different. We're individuals, and we need to understand that individual, where their strength is, and be able to somehow harness that strength and bring the best out of every person. And that I think is a key positive for any leader, to be able to really bring out the talent in individual members of their team.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Zadeh. Also for sharing your remarkable journey and all the wisdom. It has been really, really inspiring. And it's really an honor to have learned directly from you today. I'm sure this conversation will stay with many of us as we continue shaping our own paths in medicine. So yeah, thank you for being with us today. And also thank you to everyone who joined us this evening. We hope you found this conversation as insightful and motivating as we did. So yeah, on behalf of Med School Mentor, thank you all again, especially thanks to Dr. Zadeh. And yeah, have a wonderful evening, and we look forward to see you again in our next conversation.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Zadeh.
Thank you.
Bye, June.